Call from mom. Answer it. Call silenced.
Instacart knows nothing gets between you and the game. That's why they make ordering from your couch easy. Stock up today and get all your groceries for the week delivered in as fast as 30 minutes without missing a minute of the game.
You have 47 new voicemails.
Download the app to get free delivery on your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
Save on Cox Internet when you add Cox Mobile and get fiber-powered internet at home and unbeatable 5G reliability on the go. So whether you're playing a game at home,
yes, goal,
or attending one live, you can do more without spending more. Learn how to save at cox.com/internet. Cox Internet is connected to the premises via coaxial cable. Cox Mobile runs on the network with unbeatable 5G reliability as measured by Ookla LLC in the U.S. 2H 2023. Results may vary, not an endorsement. Other restrictions apply.
Have you ever covered a carpet stain with a rug? Ignored a leaky faucet? Pretended your half-painted living room is supposed to look that way? Well, you're not alone. We've all got unfinished home projects. Whether it's a door that sticks, or a disorganized closet, or an AC unit that only works half the time. It all matters. You just haven't taken care of it yet. But there's an easier way. Just download the Thumbtack app. You can search for what you need done and find tons of highly rated pros right in your neighborhood. Check prices, reviews, and book a pro right on the spot. Plus, you'll know what to tackle next, because Thumbtack is the app that shows you what to do, who to hire, and when. Pull out your phone and in just a few taps, say goodbye to all those unfinished home projects and say hello to caring for your home the easier way. Download Thumbtack and start a project today.
Here's Kevin Saal, Wichita State Athletic Director. Kevin, I'd ask you to weigh in on that opinion, but I don't want to put you in a bad spot.
The only thing I can think about when you two banter back and forth like that is the two guys in the theater on the Muppet Show, the two guys up in the balcony that are always barking at each other.
That's our inspiration.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We've been accused of that, yes. So happy to have you today. It's we're nearing the end of the spring sports season. It seems like it's flown by. So when we do get to the end of the spring season and all the sports shut down to some degree for a little while, what happens in the athletic director's office? What do you do at that point in time?
Well, it's a good question. It will be a while yet still. Obviously, we've got 2 more conference weekends with baseball. And then we've got the conference tournament after that. So you've got 3 to 4 weeks of baseball season left. We've got this week with hosting the American Athletic Conference softball tournament this week. So we're excited about that. We'll have 9 games, 4 on Wednesday, 2 Thursday, 2 Friday, and 1 Saturday. And then track and field, actually, they leave late this week to head to American Athletic Conference championships. And then we should have a handful, maybe a few more than a handful, that will compete in NCAA regionals and hopefully be able to get to Eugene, which will be late May, early June. So we really start to slow down late May, early June when we got things clicking really well. Obviously, you guys know that means NCAA baseball and NCAA softball are late May and early June. But for us, we turn our attention to evaluating the year that has been. We have about 160 strategic goals and objectives that we had set for ourselves this year, and we'll take a look at that. We'll look at kind of our global winning percentages this year, and we do season-ending meetings with coaches, of course, fundraising for both our annual operating scholarships and NIL will continue throughout the summer. And we have a busy summer this summer. We've got women's basketball is going to be going to the U.S. Virgin Islands, so they'll be here practicing and prepping for that. So we'll have a lot of support services that will happen in terms of academics and nutrition and strength and conditioning this summer. Volleyball is going to Brazil, so both of those guys are doing foreign trips, and then men's basketball will be here in July working out as well. So long story short is there's not as much downtime in our industry as there used to be in the summers, and we'll be prepping for next year and putting together our marketing plans for volleyball and men's women's basketball. So it'll be a busy summer.
So it was announced that Gene Stevenson, obviously former baseball coach at Wichita State for a long time, will be donating $600,000 to the baseball program and $20,000 each year earmarked for the NIL collective. How will you be using that money? Has that all been determined? At least the $600,000. What will that go to?
Well, the $600,000 is stipulated as a planned gift, so it's a gift, very generous gift that is stipulated in Gene's trust, and then obviously there'll be paperwork that's done with the foundation here on campus. And as we understand the very generous gift, that it would be restricted specifically to baseball. So at that time, I hope it's 40 years from now. At that time, we would make the best determination of what would be most impactful and useful to the baseball program. Again, at that time, it would be restricted to baseball. The $20,000 NIL gift, again, very, very generous, and we're incredibly appreciative of that. It's set up as a challenge gift in order for us to recruit $20,000 from other sources for NIL to match that 20, and certainly appreciate Coach Stevenson's leadership in that area, and that would be restricted to baseball's NIL through the Weak Shot Collective. So, again, I think short-term recruiting and retention, obviously, from an NIL perspective, and then long-term, the larger gift would be used at the best benefit of the baseball program at that time.
Kevin Saal, our guest, Wichita State Athletic Director. So I keep thinking about NIL, and I know I probably beat it into the ground a little bit, but I have so many questions. When you do this NIL, and it's not just Wichita State, of course, but I'm talking on a bigger perspective, are schools, what's the requirement in terms of sharing this information? Can media request open records? Is it public? Is it required to be public? Do we need to know where these funds go and which athletes get them? Is that part of the process yet? Do you expect it to be if it's not?
Great questions. Because the way that the NCAA guidance lays out, athletic departments can basically do anything and everything, Bob, right up till collecting funds and distributing them to athletes, right? So we can put NIL opportunities in front of young people. They don't have to accept them. We can bring them to the table. But at the end of the day, the athletics department cannot accept the funds from a vendor or a sponsor or a private donor that wants to support NIL and distribute those to the young people. That's why the collectives are involved. There are third parties that can accept and distribute those funds. They manage the tax-exempt status. They manage the tax liability for our student athletes. And so that then leads to the answer to your question from an open records perspective. If it was routed through the university, then obviously that would be subject to Kansas open record law. It's routed through a foundation, Blueprint Sports. It's a private foundation that is not subject to open records law. And I would tell you just anecdotally, I don't know that we would want to get into public disclosure of specific amounts for young people. You get ever closer to the professional model when things like that start to occur. It becomes a little bit more problematic. But at the end of the day, the collective and folks who make the best decisions for recruitment and retention. And as we've talked about before, I think it's a more powerful retention tool than it is recruitment. We've got a group of coaches here that are moving on to the next recruit if the first question is NIL. That's not conducive to what we're trying to accomplish here. And I will tell you anecdotally that you hear a lot out there, and until we get to full transparency and a requirement to disclose those types of figures, it's going to be really hard to know what market you're competing in, right? Because you might have a representative call you and say, hey, it's going to take this amount, or there's really no way to validate amounts and what the market is that you're truly competing for. So I think at some point we'll need to get to the transparency on it nationwide. We took a half a step there this most recent cycle of NCAA rule changes that basically stipulated a voluntary disclosure process. So we'll see how much folks take advantage of that voluntary disclosure. But until we get to a mandatory disclosure and the transparency that's associated with that, it's going to be difficult for us to figure out what market we're competing within.
So you mentioned the American Conference softball tournament coming to Wichita. You've invested in that program quite a bit with the upcoming renovations. You extended their coach, Christy Bredbenner. So what do you envision the ceiling of that program could be in the near future?
Well, that's a great question. I think what Coach Bredbenner and her staff have built over the last 12 to 13 years would tell you that started off really humble beginnings, and then all of a sudden you're going to 5 out of 7 NCAA regionals, and so there's a pretty steep decline or incline of growth there, and they're battle tested and they understand what that looks like. I was really pleased to see us finish the season strong with a sweep against Memphis. To claim the 4th seed in the tournament. We're competing at home, and I think in my experience there's been great value and benefit, competitive advantage to competing for championships at home when you can sleep in your own beds and get into your own routine and do all those sort of things. So I look to really good things for us here in the very short term with this softball tournament this week. This is a tournament that the institution has looked forward to for a couple of years. We understood that we would be considered for this event if we invested in our facility to the tune of batting cages, dugout, lights. We did the field and artificial turf last summer as well, and did all of those things with a clear understanding that we'd have an opportunity to host this, on top of the fact that it's the right thing to do for our facilities. Well, we got it. We're hosting the event Wednesday through Saturday this week. It's going to be some really high-level softball getting played. Would encourage young people in Wichita and families. I think we've done a little over 200 all-session tickets so far, and we've got obviously more to sell there. Really excited about it. I think it's a huge step forward for our program. And what's interesting, guys, is that after this year, it's been kind of on an institutional rotation basis. And now the institutions in the American Athletic Conference will bid for it. So we have a unique opportunity here at Wichita State to absolutely crush it this week and make the league walk away wondering why they would put it anywhere else but here. So, again, it's a great opportunity. And I think to answer your question, man, I think the next step for us is a regional championship and getting to a super regional and continuing to build. But certainly understand all the work that's been put in over the last 12 to 13 years to get us to where we are now.
Kevin Saal with us. One final question for you, Kevin, and it kind of goes back to the changing atmosphere in college athletics. You've mentioned that Wichita State wants to be in a position with its NIL to retain athletes. And if the first question is, what's the NIL look like, you have a tendency to maybe move on. We had Bill Self on the show from Kansas, obviously, the other day, and he was of the opinion that at KU it's quite a bit different, that they're in a position where NIL is a vital factor to their men's basketball program. So this retention thing, while I think it's great in theory, how does it work out in practice?
Yep. Well, retention speaks to or alludes to the fact that there is value from a young person's perspective and understanding, number one, that they're valued within the program as people and that they're developing as young people as well, right? Because if those two things aren't happening, then retention is irrelevant. And so I think to give you an example, Quincy Ballard, understands that he's valued as a person within our program, and he took tremendous steps forward from a player development standpoint last year. Why would you leave if you're going to continue to improve there, as long as we can be competitive in the NIL space, that they're not taking a huge hit by staying at Wichita State? And I will tell you, there have been instances where young people have taken less from the Wheat Shot Collective than they could have gotten elsewhere, because they're valued as people, number one, and number two, because they're getting better. And so that's where I think there's value in the retention conversation that you don't necessarily have to match some other collective dollar for dollar in doing that. I didn't hear the interview with Coach Self and think the world of him and respect the job that he's done. I do think there's an element in recruiting that it's not going to be the most important tool in the toolbox, but it's pretty important. It's one of many factors that young people are going to evaluate, and so it does present some version of a minimum cost of admission in the recruiting process for certain folks. And it's a fine line. We're threading a very thin needle here, because if you're talking to young people where the first question out of the box, out of the gate, is NIL, what do you have? That's probably not somebody that you're going to build a championship culture with. At the same time, you got to be competitive in that space as well. So I know that can create a confusing dynamic, but the retention piece speaks to folks that are already in your program. You know what you got, and you know they're getting better, and they know they're being valued. And so that's how you create the continuity, is through retention.
Fascinating stuff. I continue to just be enthralled by the whole conversation as it pertains to the changing ways of college athletics. Thanks for coming on and explaining it the way you do. We appreciate it, Kevin.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Y'all be safe with the weather this afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity, and go Shockers.
Save on Cox Internet when you add Cox Mobile and get fiber-powered internet at home and unbeatable 5G reliability on the go. So whether you're playing a game at home,
Yes, goal.
or attending one live, you can do more without spending more. Learn how to save at cox.com/internet. Cox Internet is connected to the premises via coaxial cable. Cox Mobile runs on the network with unbeatable 5G reliability as measured by Ookla LLC in the U.S. 2H 2023. Results may vary, not an endorsement. Other restrictions apply.
Everybody knows it. Toyota trucks are the stuff of legends. Rugged, durable, everlasting. Toyota makes trucks that just don't quit. And now Toyota is driving that legacy toward the future with two of their most powerful trucks ever, the new Tundra and the all-new Tacoma. In a half-ton Tundra, you can rule the roads. From the comfort of a spacious cabin with connected tech and plenty of hauling power, the Tundra is ready to work hard and play even harder. Or check out the all-new 24 Tacoma, redesigned and electrified to maximize your adventure. With a bevy of available off-road driving and power transfer modes, you will effortlessly crush the conditions. And with the Tacoma's reimagined interior, you'll do it in style. And right now, your local Toyota dealer has more vehicles in stock and is making delivery on new vehicles almost every day. So don't wait. Buy a Tundra or Tacoma today. Visit buyatoyota.com for deals and more. Toyota, let's go places.
Now, with the MLB app, you can get baseball your way. Pick your favorite team, your favorite players, and get customized highlights, stories, and breaking news right on your home feed. Follow the action with Game Day, where 3D replays add another dimension. Plus, notifications can keep you connected to every pitch, every hit, every game. The MLB app. Baseball your way. Download it now for free from the App Store or Google Play. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission.